The first time the power went out that winter, I was standing in my kitchen in Holmes County with a match already in my hand before the refrigerator finished its last hum. No flashlight, no scrambling through a junk drawer, just a lamp on the windowsill, half full, wick trimmed the way my mother trimmed it, and the wick the way her mother trimmed it before that. I struck the match, the flame caught the oil, and the kitchen turned gold. Outside, every other house on the road went black and stayed black. Ours glowed until morning, and nobody in that kitchen thought it was remarkable. That was simply Tuesday. 41 years. That is how long my family lit that kitchen without a single watt from a wire. I will tell you exactly what was in that lamp, exactly how much it cost to keep it burning, and exactly why I have never once since I left paid a power company a single dollar for light. Stay with me to the end because I am going to walk you through the one adjustment almost nobody gets right. The difference between a lamp that smokes and stinks up a room and one that burns clean for 6 or 7 hours on less oil than you'd believe. I have never seen it written down in any book, and Edna, the woman who taught it to me, never wrote anything down either. She just showed me, once, and expected me to remember. Tell me in the comments how long the lights stayed off the last time your power went out. Just the number of hours. I read every one, and I am always a little stunned by the answers people leave. You already know the feeling. The forecast says storm, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a clock starts running. You check the flashlight batteries. Half of them are dead. You check the lantern. The bulb burned out in August and you never replaced it. You have a generator you have used twice in 3 years and you are not entirely sure it will start on the first pull. Same dread, same scramble, same drawer full of batteries that don't match any device you currently own. And somehow every single year, you are no better prepared than the year before, even though you tell yourself this is the year you will finally get organized. Here is the part nobody wants to say out loud. There is no money in a lamp that runs on oil you can buy once and refill for pennies for the rest of your life. There is a great deal of money in a flashlight that needs a fresh set of batteries every few months. In a power company that bills you whether the lines hold or not. In a generator that needs gasoline, you have to keep fresh, and an engine you have to keep maintained. Nobody profits from a glass bowl, a wick, and a pint of oil that lasts a family a week. So nobody tells you about it. They don't need to hide it. They just never bring it up, and you never ask, because you didn't grow up needing to. The woman who taught me how to do this right was not my mother. It was an older woman named Edna, who lived 2 farms over. A widow who had outlived 2 husbands and, by her own count, raised 11 lamps from second-hand parts because store-bought ones were considered an extravagance in the house where she grew up. I drove past her old place a few years ago, after I had left the community, just to see if it was still standing. It was. The barn had a new roof. The window where her lamp used to sit was dark, because nobody who lived there anymore remembered why it mattered. I stood in that driveway longer than I meant to, and I will admit I felt something close to grief for a woman I hadn't thought about in years. Edna kept her lamps on a shelf by the back door, 6 of them, each one a slightly different size depending on what room it served. The base of her best one was glass, plain and round, the kind you could find at any auction for almost nothing because nobody bid on them anymore. The wick was flat braided cotton, about 3/4 of an inch wide, the kind sold in any hardware store that still carries old-fashioned lamp supplies. The fuel was plain lamp oil, sometimes kerosene when oil was scarce, kept in a tin can in the cellar where it stayed cool and out of direct light. That is the whole apparatus. A bowl, a wick, a fuel, a chimney of glass to keep the draught from making the flame dance and smoke. Nothing in it requires electricity, a battery, or a bill in the mail, and nothing in it has ever once needed a firmware update. Here is how you actually do it. And I want to walk through this slowly because the difference between a lamp that works beautifully and one that smokes up your ceiling is almost always in the details people skip past. Start with the wick. Trim it flat across the top, not pointed, not rounded, flat, like cutting the end off a loaf of bread. A pointed wick gives you a tall, flickering, smoky flame. A flat wick gives you a low, steady, even flame about the height of your thumbnail. That single adjustment, the flat trim, is the very first thing Edna drilled into me before anything else, before she even let me near a match. Most people who try this once get a smoky lamp and give up forever. Made exactly this one mistake and never knew it. Fill the bowl no more than 3/4 full. Leave room. A lamp filled to the brim will weep oil out the wick tube once it warms, and that is how houses end up with oil stains on windowsills and a reputation for being a fire hazard, which an oil lamp is not when handled with basic sense, any more than a stove burner is. Let the wick soak in the oil for a full 10 minutes before you ever strike a match. A dry wick lights with a harsh, smoky flare. A soaked wick lights soft and clean and settles into a steady burn almost immediately. This is the second mistake almost everyone makes. They fill the lamp and light it within seconds, and then they wonder why their kitchen smells like a campfire for the rest of the evening. Once it is lit, trim the flame down using the little wheel or lever on the side until the top of the flame is rounded, not pointed, and there is no visible smoke trailing off the tip. A clean burning lamp produces almost no smell and almost no soot on the chimney glass. If your chimney glass is black by the next morning, your flame was too high all night and you were burning oil you didn't need to burn for light you didn't need either. A single pint of lamp oil burned correctly in a wick that size will give you somewhere around 7 hours of steady light. A typical kitchen lamp holds close to 1.5 pints. That means one filling carries a family through an entire evening of cooking, reading and sitting together for a fraction of what a single set of batteries costs at the store, and with none of the corroded contacts batteries leave behind in a flashlight you forgot to empty. Now, I want to be honest with you about something, because Edna was honest with me about it first. A single oil lamp will not light a whole house the way a row of electric bulbs does. It throws a warm circle of light, maybe 8 or 10 feet across, bright enough to read by, to cook by, to sit and talk by, but it will not flood a living room the way a ceiling fixture does. If you need to light a wide open space evenly, you need more than one lamp placed where the work actually happens. That is not a flaw in the lamp. It is simply what it is built to do, and what it was never meant to do. I made every mistake in this process myself before I understood any of it. I once filled the lamp to the very top and watched oil seep down the glass for 2 days before I figured out why. I once trimmed a wick to a sharp point because I thought a taller flame meant more light, and instead got a ceiling corner stained black that took weeks to scrub clean. I once lit a dry wick straight out of the package and filled the whole kitchen with a smell that lingered through supper and into the next morning. And I once left a lamp burning at full height overnight because I forgot to trim it down, and woke up to half the oil gone and a chimney coated in soot so thick I could barely see the flame through it. Every one of those mistakes taught me something Edna already knew and had simply never had reason to explain, because in her world, everybody already knew it by the time they were old enough to be trusted near the matches at all. If you're the kind of person who would rather understand how a thing works than simply be told it works, you already know what to do. And I suspect you've already done it more than once tonight while listening to this. Come back, because the next thing I want to show you is how my grandmother kept a single jar of starter going for years without ever buying a packet of yeast again. And that loop is going to surprise you even more than this one did. So who is this actually for? And who should skip it? This is for anyone who wants a reliable backup light source that does not depend on the grid, does not depend on batteries staying charged, and does not depend on remembering to buy anything more than a jug of oil twice a year. It is for anyone who has sat through a storm wondering if the flashlight in the drawer still has any juice left in it. It is not a replacement for a generator if you are running medical equipment that needs continuous power, and it is not a solution if you are trying to light a large finished basement evenly for a party of 30 people. Anyone who tells you one small oil lamp will do everything an electrical system does is selling you something, and it isn't the truth. This is a quiet, steady light for a kitchen table, a hallway, a bedside, in the hours when the grid has failed you and you would rather not sit in the dark waiting for someone else to fix it. There is good money, a great deal of it, in selling a household a system that fails the moment a storm knocks down a line, and then selling that same household the batteries and the candles and the backup chargers to survive until the line is repaired. There is no money at all in telling a family that a $5 lamp and a jug of oil from the hardware store will outlast every storm season for years without ever needing a single replacement part. Nobody can sell you a monthly bill for sunlight stored in a jar. That is the entire principle behind everything I just walked you through, and it is the same principle behind almost everything I grew up with. It is the same principle behind a root cellar instead of a refrigerator that hums every hour of every day, whether you open the door or not. It is the same principle behind a clothesline instead of a machine that needs a repair technician the moment a belt slips. None of it was ever about rejecting comfort for its own sake. It was about refusing to let comfort come with a string attached to a company that owes you nothing once the bill stops arriving on time. A lamp owes you nothing either, except this: fill it, trim it, strike the match, and it will do exactly what it did the night before, and the night before that, for as long as you keep a jug of oil on the cellar shelf. This weekend, find one old glass jar or bowl you already own. Even a mason jar will do for a test run. And see if you can rig a simple wick and get a clean flame burning for even 20 minutes. Come back and tell me whether it's smoked on you or burned clean on the first try. Type the word steady in the comments if you have ever wished, even for one evening, that your light didn't depend on something you couldn't control. There is one more thing Edna taught me that I almost left out, because it seems small until the night you actually need it. Keep a second, half-sized lamp filled and ready near the bed. Not lit, just filled and waiting, with the matches sitting right beside it on the nightstand, where your hand finds them without needing your eyes open. The kitchen lamp does the work of an evening. The bedside lamp does the work of the 3 in the morning, when the power has been out for hours and you wake up needing the bathroom and there is nothing but black in every direction. I have reached for that little lamp more times than I can count, And I have never once reached for it and found it empty, because filling it again the moment it runs low became as automatic as locking a door. People ask me sometimes whether the smell bothers me, because lamp oil does have a smell. Faint, but real, especially in the first minute after lighting. It does not bother me. I grew up with it the way some people grow up with the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. It means the house has light. It means nobody is sitting in the dark waiting on a truck from the power company to drive out and find the downed line.
There is a particular kind of helplessness in modern life that I did not understand until I left the community and watched my neighbours here in town handle a blackout. Grown adults, capable in every other way, standing in their own kitchens with their phone flashlights on, waiting. Because the one skill nobody taught them was how to make their own light, without asking permission from a company 2 counties away. Now, back to that lamp on my windowsill the night the power went out for good that winter. The number I opened with, 41 years. That is how long that exact glass lamp, the one Edna helped me choose at an auction the summer I turned 19, sat in some window of mine and never once failed me. Never once needed a bulb replaced or a fuse checked. Never once left me standing in the dark, waiting for a company 2 counties away to send someone out to fix a line. And the artifact I promised you at the start, the adjustment nobody writes down. That flat trim across the wick, soaked for 10 minutes before the first match ever touches it. That is the whole secret. Not a recipe, not a trick. Just the one habit that separates a lamp that smokes from a lamp that simply, quietly, does its job for 41 years and counting. I think of Edna's window every single time mine flickers to life, and I suspect I always will. Waste nothing. And remember, the people who lit this country before the wires ever went up knew something we are only just beginning to remember we forgot.